So this is a re-upload of my very first video that I put out way back in January. It took this long for it to get enough views that somebody pointed out that the audio starts randomly cutting in and out about halfway through. I somehow messed up the final audio track that I made for it, and I guess after spending months figuring out video editing basics from complete scratch, I must not have taken the time to actually watch it one last time on YouTube after I uploaded it. Even though I'm still learning, and this one is a little rougher than some of my newer stuff, which I'm also aware isn't grade A just yet, I think some of the humor was still good in this one, so I figured I may as well fix it up a little bit and put it back up for posterity. I was gonna just re-add the audio, but then I noticed how small the actual video was. I don't really know how to make PS1 aspect ratio games full screen without stretching it, so I added some frames like I've started doing in my other video series about PS1 games to kind of fill it out. The voiceover work was also recorded with my old mic that I had to hold like 3 inches away from my face and basically scream into it, and then I still had to add a bunch of gain filters just to make it audible. So I apologize for some of the excessive background noise and the hard P's.
What's a hard P? You know, first thing in the morning when it just won't come out.
I did run it through some filters on Audacity, and I think that helped a little bit, but I also don't really know what I'm doing in terms of audio filters yet, and from what I've been able to find online, a lot of times, if the initial recording is that rough, there's nothing to do to fix it. Anyway, trying to avoid being too rambly as I usually am, so hope you enjoy.
Flashback.
So I grew up in the 90s, but I didn't play Silent Hill when it first came out. I was busy with a different console, saving princesses and banjoing kazooies. When I did finally enter this nightmarish world, I didn't even start in the right order. My first entry into the series was Silent Hill 3, then I believe 2, and then 1. I had no idea of the timeline of the games, and I don't even think I made the connection between 1 and 3 until I replayed them both a couple years later. When I first did pop in Silent Hill 1, it was definitely a downgrade in terms of graphics from the PS2 era iterations I was used to. And much to my dismay, I had to power through awkward tank controls that luckily the later games don't force you to use. However, what it lost in graphics and control, it still kept in atmosphere and sound design. And even with the lower res graphics, there's still some pretty freaky visuals they were able to pull off. Anywho, back in October, Halloween was rolling around and I was in a horror mood and decided to dust this game off in order to get into the holiday spirit. Who am I kidding? I'm one of those weirdos that watches and plays horror content year-round, but that's a totally normal thing, right? Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to play on original hardware because back in my college years and early 20s, I sold off most of my old games and systems because I was broke, and like many other naive people, I just assumed the price of retro gaming was never really going to be that high. Then I remembered that I had previously bought a digital version on my PS3, which I do still have. So I dusted that console off, fired it up, and I got some message about no longer having the license to play the game. Thanks, Sony. So I did the next best thing. I dug up my PlayStation Classic that I bought when they were like $25 and never played with since they had such a lackluster selection of games. And then through the magic of some special software I got off the internet, I was able to play on the closest thing I have to an original PlayStation. So without further ado, let's get out there and silence these hills.
Let's go.
So as the game begins, we wake up in our car, look over and see that the passenger door is open, and we step out into the fog, hobbling around like we're in serious need of an ambulance. We're now completely alone in the fog and snow. And it's not like we're in the middle of nowhere or in the woods or the country or something. We're in the middle of town. Where is everybody? Wondering where our daughter is, we take control of Harry for the first time, and we walk a whole 7 steps before we see another cutscene of a little girl running away. We call out to her, but the little brat just keeps running away.
Hey, wait! Stop!
Why are you running? Why are you running?
We chase her down an alley and through a gate that right on the other side has a giant mutilated something or other just laying there. And then we keep chasing her because we failed as a parent to teach our daughter any sense of self-preservation. As we go on, it continues to get darker, and now we hear a siren off in the distance. And we're seeing things that have no place in an alleyway, like rusty wheelchairs and bloody hospital beds. Me personally, at this point, I would have just noped out, turned around, and chalked the whole kid up as a loss. But Harry is a better man than I, and apparently loves his daughter enough to keep going. It continues to just keep getting worse and worse as we're guided through the bloody fence maze to find what looks like a skinned person strung up by barbed wire. Looking at this, Harry has a much calmer reaction than I would. As we turn around, we're attacked by a bunch of little albino kids who are able to take us out pretty easily. We wake up again, and it turns out that was all a dream. This time we're in a diner, and we meet the first person we've seen since we got to town. This is Sybil Bennett. She's the cop we saw passing us on her motorcycle in the opening cinematic, and then later on we saw a crashed bike by the side of the road. She ends up being our closest ally through this story, even though we do spend the majority of it alone. She tells us that she's a cop from the neighboring town Brams. The phones and radio are all dead, and her plan is to call in reinforcements somehow. She warns us not to go outside, but then after we tell her we have to, she just hands us a gun because that's totally a normal thing for cops to do. She heads out, and we're back on our own. We stock up around the diner with a health drink, grab our map and flashlight, and we grab a knife, which is essentially useless, even though the game won't let us leave without it. We go to exit, but as we do, we hear strange static coming from the radio over on the table. We go to check it out, and as we do, a giant pterodactyl yeets itself through the window and knocks us on our ass. This is the air screamer. These things are nearly impossible to hit with melee weapons, so we're gonna have to use guns or just run away from them. They can be super annoying though if we're gonna try to run away from them, as they can track us for quite a distance and will just swoop in and smack us from all angles. We can't run from this first one though, and since we have no other choice,
Anyway, I started blasting. Bang!
with our first kill and a fresh taste of blood, we grab our radio and we get the hell out of there. This radio plays into one of the main gimmicks of the series, being that the enemies make the radio emit static when nearby, which helps alert us, but then also kinda keeps us on edge since we never know exactly how close they are. We have no idea what else to do, so we decide to go back to that alley from our dream, you know, the one that we got killed in. On our way there, we meet another one of those super annoying outdoor enemies from this game, the Groaner. They kind of follow the same attack pattern as the air screamers, just on the ground instead of in the air. They try to run at us and bite as they jump past, then circle around and come back for more. We take him out and then we give him a stomp just to make sure. Making our way back to the actual alley, at least it's staying daylight this time. And it's not quite as bloody and rusty as it was before. We get to the end of the alley where we find Cheryl's sketchbook, a real melee weapon, the steel pipe, and a note saying, "To school." We now have a weapon that's actually capable of hitting enemies and our new destination. Of course it's on the other side of town and we can't just run straight there because, as with most US cities, Silent Hill's roads are in a constant state of disrepair. I can't imagine why that is.
Well, then we're going to have to pay more in taxes.
What? I'm not paying more in taxes, D. I won't do it. Don't speak of it again.
We make our way around and we find some bloody papers with Doghouse, Levin Street written on them. And so we make our way back to the doghouse we passed earlier and we find a key inside of it. We enter and we find that the back door is locked with 3 padlocks. That's a stupidly ridiculous amount of locks for a door and not at all believable. Come on, Konami. Next to the door is a map with 3 locations marked, which we assume are for the keys, so we head back out into the cold instead of just going out a window or smashing the locks off with our pipe. Hey, Harry's an upstanding guy and he doesn't want to cause any property damage in the murder town that's overrun with monsters. We head first to the alley that's marked on the map because we've had such good luck with alleys so far. Here we find the key of Woodman next to a dog's head. So I honestly don't think I ever paid as much attention as I did this time to the whole scene going on here. So the key is in a little blood puddle that's a few feet away from the dog's mouth. And as we move the camera out a little bit, we see a blood splatter on the back of the backboard. Also, the key is called the Woodman key, which is a reference to the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz. So the dog was apparently holding the key in its mouth. Someone grabbed an axe and cut off the dog's head, then grabbed the head, shouted "Kobe," and shot the head through the hoop, and then the key got spit out when the head hit the ground. Next we head to the spot on South Elroy Street and totally spend 2 minutes running in circles because my old eyes and blurry PS1 graphics make it impossible to see where there's a downed tree leading across a gap to the mailbox. Once we do cross, we open it to find the second key, the key of Scarecrow. Now we make our way to the northern part of Elroy Street where we find a wrecked police car and the key of Lion in the trunk. With all 3 of these keys in hand and no idea why they're referencing The Wizard of Oz, we head back to Levin Street to open the door to the Eclipse. We step outside and it instantly starts getting dark again. When this happened last time in our dream, we ended up getting killed, but at least this time we have some equipment with us. So we turn on our flashlight, grab our gun and our balls, and make a mad dash through town just trying to avoid enemies as we go. Now normally I'm the kind of person when I'm playing video games I like to kind of kill everything, but if we take that route in this game we're going to be stopping every 5 seconds to kill something. Eventually we make our way to Midwich Elementary School, since a scrap of paper in an alleyway is our only clue to go on at the moment. Entering the school, the sounds all stop and it's eerily quiet. We grab our map and make our way out into the courtyard where we run into one of those little bastards from our dream earlier. This is the Gray Child, and they're named that because they look like a gray child. And so this enemy is only available in the US version of the game, since the European and Japanese versions thought they looked too much like actual children, and they had to replace them with a different enemy that we won't run into until later in this game. Now normally I wouldn't condone fighting children, but we saw earlier what they can do, and they are coming at us with a knife, so... A little bit later we run into another creature known as the Larval Stalker. This is the first thing in town other than Sybil that isn't actively trying to murder us. These act like more of an annoyance than anything else, since they do cause the radio to emit static, which makes us think there's an enemy nearby. But they won't attack us, and they can't be attacked, and eventually they just disappear. Wandering around some more, we stumble upon a couple of notes that are written in blood. 12 o'clock, a place with songs and sound. A silver guidepost is untapped and lost tongues, awakening at the ordained order. 5 o'clock, darkness that brings the choking heat. Flames render the silence, awakening the hungry beast, openings time's door to beckon prey. 10 o'clock, alchemy laboratory. Gold in an old man's palm, the future hidden in his fist, exchanged for sage's water. We also find a picture of a creepy door with 3 squares on it and what looks to be 2 bodies hanging beside it. With nothing other than some cryptic clues and a spooky door photo, we have no other choice but just to continue exploring the school. We make our way to a bathroom and we hear somebody crying in one of the stalls. Even though we're in an abandoned monster town, we still follow basic bathroom etiquette. So we mind our own business, take a piss, pretend to wash our hands, and get the hell out of there. We find a chemistry supply closet and grab a bottle of hydrochloric acid, which just is labeled as chemical. And then we make our way to the science lab next door where we find a statue of a hand holding something. Thinking back to one of the notes, we just dump our acid on the hand all willy-nilly because one of the laws of nature is that acid magically knows not to eat through key items in your quest to save your daughter. Okay, so while I was editing, I actually thought to Google this for some reason, and apparently acids don't normally react with gold unless you mix a corrosive acid with nitric acid to create something called aqua regia.
Yes, science!
So this was actually a smart puzzle. Either that or I just slept through that part of Chemistry 101 and missed a basic fact that everybody else actually does know. Now we grab the gold medallion. Next we find a locker room with one of the lockers about to get blown off the hinges. We let our curiosity get the best of us, and out pops a cute little kitty cat. Hey, maybe things are going to be alright after all. Oh. Well, looks like any qualms I had about killing kids are out the window now. Next we find a piano with the fallboard magically locked and some more bloody writing on the wall. A tale of birds without a voice. First flew the greedy pelican, eager for the reward, white wings flailing. Then came a silent dove, flying beyond the pelican as far as he could. A raven flies in, flying higher than the dove just to show that he can. A swan glides in to find a peaceful spot next to another bird. Finally out comes a crow, coming quickly to a stop, yawning and then napping. Who will show the way? Who will be the key? Who will lead to the silver reward? Nothing we can do at the moment without access to the piano, so let's just do a little backtracking. Back out in the courtyard, we find a weird door with a spot on one side for a golden sun. We do have a gold medallion, so this looks like as good a spot as any to put it. Checking the door, it's still locked, and as we look up to the clock, it's now showing 12 o'clock. Thinking again back to our notes from earlier, it mentions a place with songs and sound. Sounds like we gotta go recheck that music room. So now the piano's open, and I'm not gonna lie, I remember this puzzle being so hard in the past. I don't know if it's because I've played the game enough, or maybe I'm just getting wiser with my old age, but I actually solved it pretty quickly this time. And it's been a few years since I've actually played the game, and I have the memory of a goldfish with ADD, so it's not like I actually remembered the solution from last time. I think what always threw me off was the 4 black spots in the blood, so I was thinking they had something to do with the puzzle, but nope. When we press the keys, we find out that 5 of them make a click noise instead of an actual note. 3 white and 2 black. Consulting our bloody wall guide, 2 of the birds mentioned are black and 3 are white. So we play the keys in the order of how far the birds flew, and voila. We got ourselves a silver medallion this time. We take the new medallion back down to the courtyard, and now the clock is stuck at 5 o'clock. We think back to our note about choking heat and flames. Not sure what that means. We head to the only part of school we haven't been to yet, the basement. Sure enough, the boiler down here has a bright red light that's just begging to be pushed. This would match up with heat and flames, so this must have been where we were being guided. Heading back to the courtyard again, we check and the door is now open. We enter, and as we're going down the ladder, we hear the familiar siren going off as we approach the Keep Out sign. We didn't come this far to listen to some punk-ass sign, though, so we push forward. Climbing up the ladder on the other side, we're back in the courtyard, but it looks different this time. With a weird symbol painted on the ground. We don't know what to make of it, so we just head back inside to get out of the rain. Once we go back into the school, we're greeted with some familiar aesthetics of blood and rust and chains. We're now in the otherworld version of the school. The first door we go into is a room with dolls hanging on the wall and one lone rubber ball. Which of course we take the ball, because why wouldn't we? Here we also run into a new enemy called the Creeper. These can be kind of annoying because they're really hard to spot on the ground, and the radio seems to pick them up from pretty far away, so you know something is there, but you just can't see it yet. I personally am a giant wuss and I don't do bugs, so this would probably be the most terrifying enemy in the game for me.
The only good bug is a dead bug.
Mixed in with some playing cards is a yellow card with 3 squares on the front and a key on the back. It looks important, so we take it with us. We now find that weird door from the picture earlier that we saw in the regular school. And we notice there's no doorknob, but it does have a slot that we can throw a key card into. Luckily, we just so happen to have grabbed a key card a few doors back. In yet another creepy bathroom. We open a stall door without knocking first, and we find a dude strung up and mutilated in there with "Leonard Ryan, the monster lurks" written on the wall beside him. More importantly, though, we find our second gun. Finally got ourselves a boomstick. As we're about to exit another room, we hear a phone ring, which is super weird since nothing in this town works.
We've been trying to reach you concerning your car's extended warranty.
We do get to hear Cheryl's voice before the phone goes dead. At least we now have some indication that she may still be alive. Didn't really give us any hints on her whereabouts, though, unfortunately. Up on the roof, we can see a key hanging down a hole just out of our reach. We used that rubber ball from earlier to plug a hole in the drainage gutter and turn the water on to flush the key down the drain. Now time to head back down to the courtyard to grab the key. Now this is one of those things that I vaguely remember from my previous playthroughs, but I don't know what actual indications there are to tell new players that they have to go down to the courtyard to grab this key. Maybe since you're locked in the school and the only other outdoor portion you have access to is the courtyard, that's supposed to tell you where to go, but I have no idea. Anyway, at least now we got the classroom key. We're in that locker room from earlier, and there's something else pounding on the locker again. Even though last time we opened it, we sent a cat to its death, we can't just leave well enough alone. Luckily this time, the locker's just filled with blood. As we go to walk away, a dead guy pops out of another locker, giving us the library reserve key. We head up to the library reserve and make our way through to the library. We find 2 books. One's about poltergeists, and then there's another one about a hunter killing a lizard by shooting it in the mouth. Seeing as we're not some kind of nerd, skimming a couple pages from 2 books is more than enough reading for one day. We store the info we read away for later, and we head down to the basement. Down here, we're faced with a puzzle where we have to turn some valves in order to open some turnstiles.
I hate valve puzzles.
As far as I can tell, there's no real hints or strategy for this puzzle, you just gotta kinda brute force your way through it. After we clear the path, we step through onto a platform and begin our descent down into the sub-basement. Once we get down here, we see a guy in the center of the room being set on fire, and we also see our first boss of the game, the Splithead. He's a giant lizard creature that really doesn't seem to react to our attacks that much. Eventually, though, his head does start to split open, hence his name, and remembering what we read earlier...
Remember, licking doorknobs is illegal on other planets.
No, not that!
Then the huge creature attacked, jaws opened wide. This was what the man wanted. Calmly drawing his bow, he shot into the lizard's gaping mouth.
We wait till his mouth is fully open, then we serve him an extra large helping of lead. After we take him out, everything fades to black, and we hear that siren going off in the distance once more. For once, the siren actually spells good news, though. A ghostly woman appears and then disappears, dropping a key for us as we shift back to the regular world. We grab the K. Gordon key and we hear a bell chiming off in the distance. On the way out of the school, we also stop by the front desk and check out the teacher list. Sure enough, there's a teacher with a matching name, so we grab her info. I guess this school just wants to make it easy for the students to find their teachers' addresses so they can toilet paper or egg them or something. We mark the address on the map and we head back out into the cold with that being our next destination. Luckily, Kay Gordon isn't a paranoid schizo like that first house we were in, and doesn't have a crapload of locks on her doors, so we can just pass through this house. We follow the sound of the bells and make our way to the church, where we finally meet another normal person. Well, normal might be a stretch, but at least she isn't a monster. This is Dahlia Gillespie, who says she foresaw us coming through gyromancy. Now, I always just assumed that was a made-up word for this game, but decided to look it up, and apparently that's actually a real thing. So basically, you draw a circle on the ground and put letters all around it, and then you use it sort of like a Ouija board. Except instead of ghosts guiding your hand to spell out words and sentences, you spin around until you're dizzy and then fall on the letters. Seems legit. She hints to us that she knows about the girl we're looking for, but she's being vague and cryptic about it. She leaves us with a little pyramid box called a Floros, with not much explanation of how to use it. Now, I've seen enough of the Hellraiser movies to know if someone hands you some kind of creepy puzzle box, doesn't matter what shape it is, you don't play with that. She tells us to head to the hospital, and then she hurriedly walks away before we can get any more info out of her. Apparently she's late to her bridge game or something and can't stay and talk. Against our better judgment, we grab the Floros, as well as a drawbridge key, and we head out to our next destination. Luckily, the drawbridge is just right down the road. We enter the control room, grab ourselves another map, and we lower the bridge. We head across the bridge and into central Silent Hill. Our next main goal is to make it to the Alchemilla Hospital. The path there, fortunately, isn't filled with crumbled roads like it was in old Silent Hill. As we approach the hospital gate, we hear what appears to be gunshots coming from inside. We open the gate and we cap some more dogs before we head inside to investigate. Inside the hospital, we can hear more shots. We walk in to find a man in a chair holding a gun over top of a dead air screamer. As soon as he sees us, he stands up to shoot, but luckily he is the world's absolute worst shot ever. Seriously, Harry is like 3 feet away from him. How the hell did he miss? Also, how did an air screamer get in here anyway? After we convince him we aren't a threat, he introduces himself as Dr. Michael Kaufman. He says he has no idea what's going on and everything was just like this after he woke up from his nap. We of course ask him if he's seen Cheryl, and he tells us that he hasn't, but that she's probably dead. Thanks, bro. Then he says he has to get going.
Hold up! How come every time some scurry shit happen that we need to stick together, you white people always say let's split up?
But Harry isn't much smarter, so he's just like,
So long. Good luck out there.
So we grab our hospital map, we go into the kitchen and we pick up a bottle. Then in the next room we find some red shit splattered all over the floor. So of course we scoop some of it up and take it with us. Heading down to the basement, we turn on the generator to get a little bit of power back to this place, and then we're able to take the elevator. On the second and third floors, we can't get past the lobby since the doors are locked. Re-entering the elevator after the third floor though, and mysteriously there's a button for the fourth floor. Either we just aren't super perceptive or that button wasn't there before. We decide to press it, and after a no-context cutscene of a woman walking into an antique shop, we exit the elevator. When we do exit the elevator, things are a little bit different now. Instead of the stale but relatively clean hospital, this floor has some nasty, dirty, and rusty walls. After we try to open the first door in this hallway, we hear a click come from behind us. When we go check, that door we entered from the lobby is now locked. At the end of this hallway, we do find one door that will open for us, and after we go through, it also locks behind us. There's no way to go back now, so the only way out is through. We head down the steps and we're able to access the third floor from the other side. Here we get introduced to the puppet nurse. They have a hunched back with a large moving growth on it that is some kind of parasite. They're equipped with knives and are relatively quick once they've spotted you. It's possible to maneuver around them, but with the cramped halls, I tend to take them out just to make things easier. A VCR is found in one of the rooms. Surprisingly, when it's inspected, it says it's still usable. This being operational means it will probably come in handy. Taking out another nurse, we find a plate screwed to the wall, but no indications on what we're going to do with this yet. Eventually we do find our first progression item, a blue plate of turtle, which is found in a disgusting bathroom that kinda reminds me of the good old days of living in the college dorms. We grab it and go to leave, when...
Now who the fuck did that?
Exploring some more, we come across some more junk to collect. We got ourselves a bag of blood, a plate of cat, and a lighter, all the while showing these nurses who's boss. We next find a somewhat unique enemy in this game. This is called the Bloodsucker, and as the name suggests, he likes to suck blood. So much so that he won't even stop sucking long enough for us to get past and grab the next plate. Luckily, Harry is just gross enough to have picked up a warm bag of blood from a stockroom a moment ago. We throw that, and with the sucker distracted, we're able to grab the plate of Hatter and get out of there before he comes looking for more. Next, we find a door that has 4 colored plates inserted into it and 4 open spaces. Looks like this will be where the plates we've been collecting will go, but we're one piece short, so let's see if we can find it. Down to the first floor, we find a cohort to the puppet nurse called, you guessed it, the Puppet Doctor. They're basically the same as the nurses, but they're a little bit slower. They do a little bit more damage and have more health though, it seems, so that kind of balances out for their slower reflexes. Doesn't matter though, because Harry and I have something in common, and that's our lack of respect for doctors. So we cap his ass and move on.
Glock, glock, you know what I'm saying? Dumbass pulling shit, damn.
In the medicine room, we're ambushed by another doctor, and we give him a taste of his own medicine. Get it? Oh god, no wonder my girlfriend left me. We find that the door to the exam room is locked, and when we try to open it, we can hear some noise coming from the other side. Looks like we may need to come back here. On a table by a save point, we find our 4th plate, the plate of Queen. With the first floor clear, we just gotta go check out the basement. In the generator room, we find an emergency hammer, which I believe is the strongest melee weapon in the game. It is a little bit slower than the pipe, but not by much. We go to test it out on some nurses, and even though they get in a few swipes, we eventually introduce them to hammer time. Inspecting one of the bodies here, Harry is willing to assume it's just dead, but this is Silent Hill and I ain't taking any chances. Gotta make sure. Back up to the colored plate door, we now finally have all 4 plates to insert, and they were kind enough to leave us a clue nearby. Take a wild guess what it's written in.
Oh. Use a pen, Sideshow Bob.
Reading through, each stanza represents a different color that matches our plates. We enter the blue plate to match the sky, the red plate to match the liquid from the slashed wrist, the yellow plate to match the dandelions, and the green plate to match the clovers. After making our way through the door, we mow down some more nurses. We grab a key for the basement storeroom. And in another room, we grab a bottle of disinfecting alcohol. We head downstairs and we use our basement storage key, and we find a cabinet with some scratch marks on the floor next to it. Let's push this out of our way. Now we find a floor grate with a bunch of vines growing over top. We didn't bring our weed whacker with us, but we did recently grab some rubbing alcohol and a lighter, so there's only one plausible option.
Try setting it on fire!
After somehow not dying from smoke inhalation after starting a fire in a basement storeroom with no windows or ventilation, we're able to head down to the sub-basement, which has some more treatment rooms. In one of the rooms, we find a bloody VHS tape. Now for our younger viewers, this is how we used to watch movies and TV shows before the advent of the internet and streaming. Since we did find a VCR earlier, we take this with us.
What's this?
In one of the other rooms, we find a bloodstained mattress with a picture next to it marked Alessa. Something tells me that whatever happened to this poor girl down here was not good. Sitting next to her picture is also a key for the examination room. First we take that tape back up to the VCR and we pop that in. We don't get much from this as the screen is solid static and the majority of the audio is cut out. All we can really make out is a woman in distress who seems to be talking about a child. Our next stop is the examination room. We were here earlier but the door was locked, but now we have a key. Inside we meet another real person, and she actually seems happy to see us. This is Lisa Garland. She's a nurse at this hospital and has been waiting for someone to come and save her, apparently.
Finally, someone else who's okay.
She, like Michael Kaufman, has no idea what's going on and has been hiding in this room ever since she woke up and noticed everybody was gone.
When I came to, everyone was gone. It's awful.
Let me ask you, have you seen a little girl around here?
We ask her about Cheryl, and Lisa hasn't seen her, nor does she have any idea about all the freaky crap we found in the basement.
I'm sorry.
Do you know anything about all that weird stuff in the basement?
No? Why? Is there something down there?
Well, it's...
As we're trying to tell her what we saw, we hear that familiar siren noise and we start to pass out.
What's wrong? Harry? Harry, let me help you.
When we wake back up, we're back in the normal-looking hospital. Lisa's now gone, but lucky for us, the crazy old dizzy Ouija lady is here to give us some more attitude.
Tell me everything you know. What's going on?
The town is being...
She tells us that the darkness is taking over the town.
The church in this town.
After some more rambling, she tells us that we have to find the other church in town. She also sets a key down on the desk instead of just handing it to us because she's either a germaphobe or a dick. We pick up the antique shop key, which must be our next destination, and we head outside. Here, we're greeted with,
"Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?"
Seriously, I have no idea what that noise actually is, but it is so grating, and we get to enjoy it through the whole next section of Outside Silent Hill. We also meet the Romper. This seems to be some kind of missing link between ape and human. They make monkey noises as they hop around and try to pounce on us to give us a kiss. No means no though, so we give them a smack and then we take them out. We make our way to the antique shop that we saw in that random clip as we were on the elevator earlier, and we use our key. There's another cabinet in here with some more marks on the floor next to it. Apparently these people are the worst at being sneaky and not leaving a trace. As we push this one out of the way, we're rejoined by Sybil. She says she wasn't able to make it back to Bram since all the roads are blocked and the phones and the radios are all dead. She did see a little girl earlier, but the girl just vanished into the fog before she could catch her. Before we go through the hole in the wall, we ask Sybil about the other world that we keep getting sucked into. She doesn't seem to have any idea what we're talking about, so it seems as if she isn't experiencing the horrors in this town the same way that we are. She stands guard as we make our way through the hole, and on the other side we find an altar set up, and we assume this is the other church that Dahlia was talking about. We don't find any other clues here, so we just decide to head back. On the wall behind us before we exit, we find the last melee weapon of the game, a little hand axe. As we go to slip back through the hole, that chalice on the altar just spontaneously combusts. Shifting over to Sybil, she starts to get suspicious after not hearing from us and comes through to find us gone. We wake up again, this time back in the Otherworld hospital with Lisa watching over us. She seems to have a little sadder tone than earlier, but when we ask what's wrong, she says she's fine. And as we all know, when women say they're fine, it totally means they're fine. That's one of those things they would never lie about. Like when they say, "I love you," or, "No, it's not that small." We ask about Dahlia, and she tells us that she's the town's local crazy lady and that her kid died in a fire. She goes on to say that before this was a resort town, the townspeople were all part of some weird religious cult. She thinks that that may have something to do with the darkness that Dahlia mentioned. We black out again, and this time when we wake up, we're back in the other world. Super! We don't have much to go on except for the fact that Sybil mentioned the little girl going towards the lake. All the roads are blocked, so our best bet is to head back to the hospital and ask Lisa if there's another way. Stepping back outside, it looks like the other world is growing. Up until now, it's only really been indoors, but now it looks like the whole town has shifted. The pavement has been replaced with metal grating and everything is pitch black. We run into the otherworld variation of the dogs called wormheads. These seem to essentially be a palette swap as they don't appear to act much differently than the regular dogs, other than possibly having more health. Either way, we old yeller these two and we move on to find a hole in the shutter that we can slip through. As we try to head up the escalator, the TVs all turn on and start playing some weird symbols and then flash to an image of Cheryl calling out for help. After heading up the escalator, we enter a jewelry shop and we find some rifle shells. We don't have a rifle yet, but video game logic tells us we might be getting one soon. Back outside, we run towards some worms eating some kind of monster on the grating ahead of us. As the floor gives out, we drop down into a sandy room where we meet our next boss, the Twin Feeler. Apparently this area was some kind of gun shop. Up against the wall, we find a rifle propped up. See what I tell ya. Unlike the first boss that did have somewhat of a strategy to it, this boss falls into the classic, just shoot it till it dies category of bosses.
Finish him!
After taking enough damage, it curls up into a ball, and we fail at Horror 101 by letting it just get away.
You weak, pathetic fool.
As it crawls away, it does at least provide a way out for us. Not like we couldn't have just, opened the door. We're now back outside, and we're still in the otherworld version of Silent Hill. A lot more of the ground is missing, and what is there is just that metal grating again. On the way back to the hospital, we do our best to dodge the wormheads and our nighttime air screamer variant, called the Night Flutter. Like the dogs, there doesn't seem to be too much of a difference in their behavior compared to their daytime counterparts. They do definitely seem to have more health though. A few of them took 4 or 5 shotgun blasts to put down and then still had to be stomped out. Finally back at the hospital, we find Lisa sitting there waiting for us.
Scared to be here all alone.
I'm here now. I was worried too. Lisa, can you tell me how to get to the...
She tells us of an old tunnel by the school that leads to the lake. With the road out, this looks to be our best bet.
I remember hearing it runs all the way to the lake. I don't want to be alone. It's so scary I can't.
She begs us not to leave her alone, but when we ask her to come with us, she says no.
What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want?
She feels that she isn't supposed to leave the hospital for some reason. So we split up, again, telling Lisa that we'll be back for her once we find Cheryl. Outside once more, the world has shifted again, and now there's only one path. It's as if we're subtly being guided up these steps.
Do I go this way?
Up on the roof, we run into a giant flying moth monster. That worm that we didn't finish off earlier? Yeah, now he's back and all growed up and looking for vengeance. Since the last time we saw him, he even took the time to head down to the courthouse and get his name changed to the Float Stinger, which is an even more threatening name than last time. He can fly, spit poison, and also sting, but the strategy is basically the same as the pre-metamorphosis self. Do your best to avoid its attacks, and then we open fire when we get a window. After the final shot, everything goes white and we're once again transported between the worlds by that siren. We run back to the old part of town, and the gods of backtracking take pity on us, and luckily just teleport us back to the waterworks that Lisa mentioned. We find the gate locked, and this game is nice enough to point out that we might be able to break it by hitting it hard enough. Seeing as nothing else in this game, non-enemy-wise, has any collision, they probably needed to spoon-feed us that or we'd be scouring the area looking for a key. And now down to the sewer we go, and who knows what we'll find down there.
Anything could be down there. It could be
rings,
big stuff.
coins, nudity, that's all part of the fun.
The sewers here are a little bit of a change of pace, mostly because of how quiet they are. There's still a little bit of ambient noise down here, but as we'll find out in a moment, the radio doesn't work. This means we're not going to have as much warning when danger is nearby. Running out through the first tunnel, we hear a clicking sound and we're greeted by some hanged scratchers. There are a few enemies down here, but these guys are the major sewer enemy. These little green lizards are surprisingly fast once they spot you, and they can also hang from the ceilings and swipe down at you. They also have a super slow death animation, and combine that with the lack of the radio down here, it does make it a little bit harder to tell when they're actually dead. Our first major stop is making our way to a dead end with blood splattered everywhere, where we could see a key laying in the bloody sewer water. Wishing we had kept some of that disinfecting alcohol from earlier in the hospital, we reach in and we get ambushed by some of these scratchers.
Clever girl.
This shows that they do actually have some hunting prowess and the ability to set traps. We have a shotgun, though. With our new key in hand, we backtrack a little bit in the sewer, gunning down some more scratchers and finally make our way to the exit ladder. Climbing up, we're now in the resort part of the town. I now know this is the resort part of the town because during my second playthrough recording this footage, I think for the first time ever I grabbed the frickin' map. I always hated this part because I would come out of the sewer and then grab the ammo and stuff in that broken down dilapidated house and then head out in the town the completely opposite direction, totally missing the friggin' billboard with the map on it every single time. That meant I was always blindly running around for this next part. We're now going to go do the one side quest that this game has to offer. To do that, we're going to start by going over to Annie's bar. Inside, we see Kaufman getting his ass kicked by something. Unlike Kaufman, we actually have the ability to aim, and we take that little bugger out. Kaufman then summons his inner dead man, and steals our kill by getting the final stomp. He seems a little bit more optimistic this time. He asks if we had any luck finding a way out, and then he opines that the military rescue squad will probably be coming for us. Without so much as a thank you, he grabs his briefcase, dodges our questions, and nopes out the door. Next to the pool table, we find his wallet with a key and a receipt with 0473 written on it. Our next stop is the Indian Runner, where we plug in that combo from the receipt. Inside, the place looks like it's been ransacked. We find the safe key, like 5 feet away from the safe. And inside we find what we assume to be drugs. Harry, being the square he is, just leaves them alone instead of grabbing some for the road. And we find a rear entrance code on the wall. Lastly, we make our way to the hotel back entrance and we plug in that code. We pick up a Wii motion sensor bar off the couch. Okay, apparently that's a magnet. And head out into the motel lot. Opening room 3 with Kaufman's key, we find a mostly empty room, but we do notice that the cuck chair is in the wrong corner. This signals to us that something on the other side of the room might be off. So once again, we push another piece of furniture out of the way. Seriously, these people need to find better hidey spots. And we use the magnet to grab a motorcycle key. Back to the motel office and into a little garage, we find a motorcycle with the dust around the gas tank wiped away. In the gas tank, we find a glass vial with some red liquid in it. As we grab the vial, Kaufman bursts in and he seems pissed. He demands we hand the vial to him and he just snatches it out of our hands. Up until now, he hasn't exactly been Mr. Friendly to us, but he hasn't been this hostile, so something must be up with what we found. He storms out before we can ask any more questions. With our side quest completed and sufficient time wasted, we resume our search for Cheryl. Crossing over a bridge, the town shows that it's really not playing around. We hear the siren go off and the world changes right in front of us. Racing through town, we eventually make our way to the docks and to a houseboat where we're reunited with Sybil.
Glad you made it. I was worried about you.
You were worried. Where did you disappear to? What is with this town?
For a second she mentions about how we just disappeared in the altar, but then she immediately lets it go.
Thought I was losing my mind. It's not me. This whole town is being invaded by the other world. Someone's nightmarish delusions come to life. Little by little, the invasion is spreading, trying to swallow up everything in darkness.
We try to tell her what we've pieced together so far, but she doesn't seem to believe us and says that we just need to rest. Before we can explain any further, suddenly we're interrupted by
Dahlia Gillespie.
You son of a bitch!
She starts speaking in more riddles, and Sybil is probably just standing there thinking that we're going crazy from listening to this crap from Dahlia. She says there's only 2 locations left to stop the marks of Samael from being completed, and that if we don't, the whole town will be plunged into darkness and we're all gonna die.
You want this 3-way to happen, you're gonna have to change your tone.
Go to the lighthouse on the lake.
The 2 locations that we have left to stop this are at the lighthouse and the amusement park.
Look, Harry. I'll check out the amusement park.
Sybil graciously volunteers to go to the amusement park, leaving us with the boring-ass lighthouse. Thanks, Sybil.
What about Sybil?
We make our way to the lighthouse and we make our way up to the top, but unfortunately we're too late. The symbol is already there and the little ghost chick disappears right as we get there.
Wait. Damn, I was too late.
And now we're faced with the hardest boss in the game, going down a spiral staircase with tank controls. Seriously, I got up the steps with not too much of an issue, but on every playthrough, it took so much effort to get back down for some reason. After that exhausting ordeal, we make our way back to the boat. When we get there, we notice Sybil still isn't back, and since we failed our location, we decide to head for the amusement park to help her out. Wandering around in the darkness, we eventually see a sign for the park, and nearby is another sewer entrance with the grate already removed.
Oh shit, here we go again.
We're immediately greeted by another one of those things that we saw Kaufman getting attacked by earlier. This little orange mole-looking thing is called a mumbler. These are what the Grey Child enemies were replaced with in the European and Japanese versions, since they didn't look as much like kids. This sewer section is even more linear than the first one. Basically, we just run through, kill anything that moves, and get out of here as fast as we can. Finally back on the street, we're now done with the sewers, and we have made our way to the amusement park. Stopping to check out one of the rides, this little kid legit snuck up on me and scared the hell out of me. I tried to give him a chance.
That's a fucking shotgun, kid.
But I had to do what I had to do. Up on the carousel, we find Sybil in a wheelchair, and when she gets up, something is off. She immediately pulls out her gun and tries to take us out. If we get hit, it does massive damage, and if we get too close, she'll try to smack us around instead.
What is the 5 fingers say to the face? What? Slap!
We don't want to hurt her though, so we just magically deduce to take out our red liquid that we found in the hospital earlier and splash her with it. This causes her to collapse and a little worm parasite thing to come out of her, which we put the boots to. Now this is another thing that I do remember just from playing the game before, and I did look up how you're supposed to know to do that. I expected maybe there was some kind of note or clue or something that I missed. The best and presumably correct answer I could find is that you're not supposed to know this on your first playthrough. There is a part that happens later in the game where you see a similar situation, and I guess on subsequent playthroughs you're just supposed to know to try this. Either way, Sybil is hurt, but she seems back to normal. We ride the carousel down while spilling some exposition about how Cheryl isn't really our daughter. We found her on the side of the road a few years ago and just decided to take her home with us. That's totally a legal thing to do. We think that maybe this has something to do with why the town seems to have taken her.
Cheryl is my daughter. I will save her no matter what.
Next we run into that ghost girl we've been seeing all over town again. All we want is our daughter, but this chick ain't having it. She uses some kind of magic to punch us backwards, and then when we try to run at her, there's a force field blocking us. We start to feel something move in our back pocket, and it's that Floros that Dahlia gave us earlier. It starts doing something on its own. It seems to have weakened her. Dahlia then strolls in after we did all the work and calls her Alessa. At least we now know her name. We deduce that this was her daughter all along. All we care about, though, is finding our daughter, so we ask Dahlia the same question we've been asking everybody. Dahlia just ignores us, and it looks like she may have been using us this whole time.
I was careless, thinking you couldn't escape from our spell. Now you're half indebted to this man for his help.
Hey,
The more Dahlia goes on, we realize that she knew more than she let on, and with her tone and the fear in Alessa's voice, maybe we've been helping the wrong person.
what's going on here?
There's a bright flash of light, and then Dahlia and Alessa disappear as we wake up in the hospital again with Lisa looking over us. Lisa seems even more off this time.
Lisa, what happened? Where's Alessa and Dahlia?
She tells us that she went down to the basement after what we told her earlier. She didn't see any monsters or anything like we did, but got a feeling that she had been there before. She tries to remember even though she doesn't want to. We make a half-assed attempt at consoling her, but she's too upset and just storms out. Seriously, has nobody in this town ever seen a horror movie? Stop splitting up! We make our way across a narrow platform to an elevator door that's beckoning us downward.
I'm being summoned. What happened in this town? What could be making things like this? I have a feeling if I take the elevator down, I'll find it.
We've now entered the final area of the game, called Nowhere. This area has no map and can be a little bit confusing to navigate. We're going to be retreading on a lot of areas that we've seen earlier, but the locations and transitions between the different areas make no logical or spatial sense. First up, we enter a padded room with a lone faucet in the center, and there's a key jammed in it that we can't pull out. We also find a birdcage that we saw earlier in the hospital, and now we hear fluttering noises as we approach. We also see a clock from the Antique Society that has one of the hands replaced with a key. We can't get this one because of the glass in the way. When we head down to the basement, we're transported back to a classroom with one lone desk sitting in the center. This desk belonged to some unfortunate kid who doesn't look to have been very popular. The desk has things like "Go Home," "Thief," and "Drop Dead" carved into it. These kids were brutal. Next we find some rusty tools and we take them with us because they're better than nothing. Going back upstairs, we use the pliers to open the valve on that faucet and we get one of the keys out. This nets us the key of Raphael. Our next puzzle room has a bunch of pictures on the wall with a number under each one. Those numbers represent the number of limbs, I guess, even though a scale doesn't really have limbs. And against the back wall, we find 3 pictures that have some buttons underneath them. Picking the corresponding number of limbs for each of these, we're then given the Stone of Time. Taking this stone back to the clock causes the glass to explode out on us, meaning we probably could have just smashed the glass, but whatever. We reach in and grab the key of Haggith. Down another hall, we see a familiar slate from earlier, but this time it actually has writing on it. Names engraved on a lithograph, the Grim Reaper's list. Yes, the head count is set, young and old lined up in order of age. Then the pathway opens, awaiting them. The frenzied uproar, the feast of death. We go over to the other slate that we didn't understand earlier, and with what we now read on this one that's filled in, we decide that we should put the names in numerical order based on age. Doing so, and then taking the first letter of each name gives us the word alert, which we use on the alphabet lock next door. Visiting the morgue again, we grab the Amulet of Solomon off the back wall. Backtracking some more, we run into Lisa again. She's now come to the realization that she's just like the other nurses we've encountered, she just hadn't noticed yet. She lunges towards us, begging for help. But girls are yucky, so we yeet her across the room as hard as we can before we catch her cooties. This causes her to hit her head and start bleeding profusely. Not gonna lie, for a character we didn't really get to know that well, this part always gets to me. Lisa's a tragic character, and even though there was most likely no way for us to save her, just seeing her go out like this is a little bit heartbreaking. We run out of the room and we hold the door closed as we can hear her banging and sobbing on the other side. As sad as this is, at least we weren't forced to actually take her out like we did with the other nurses we've run into. Re-entering the room, she's gone, and in her place is a diary on the floor. The diary talks about a patient she's in charge of and how she just can't take it anymore. It's a child whose wounds just will not heal. She's also starting to see bugs everywhere and seeing blood and pus flowing out of the faucets. It's possible she was starting to see something similar to the other world that we keep getting sucked into. So we dry our eyes, totally not because we were sad or anything, we just had some dust in them or something.
Like I give a bull crap. I'm a man, boy. I'm macho.
And we go on our way. We end up back in the jewelry shop from earlier and we grab a crest of mercury and a ring of contract. In another room we grab a camera. Now we make our way to a room from the hospital earlier with the plate on the wall that we couldn't do anything with. This time we have a screwdriver though, so we can get this thing off. We see another key, but unfortunately some jagoff decided to use it as a fuse, so we can't grab it just yet. If we take the elevator up to the top floor, we find an altar with some paintings on either side that reference light. We use the flash of our new camera to see hidden symbols on each of the paintings, and then we use those to open one of the doors to find the birdcage key. We head back down to the room with the birdcage and open it. This causes the fluttering to stop, and we grab ourselves a key of Phaleg. This part seems a little bit redundant, like we had to find a key just to open a birdcage to grab a key. We're able to make our way to the otherworld part of the hospital basement rooms from earlier, and find some more labeled doors. There's also a room where we find crying Alessa's ghost and scribbles all over the wall. She's probably here crying because she just got her ass beat from drawing all over the walls, so I can't feel too bad for her this time. The only other thing in here is an ankh on the wall. We grab it and we go. Down the hall we find what actually looks like a normal kid's room, which is a stark contrast to everything else we've seen so far. There's another door on the other side of the room with a bunch of slots for some symbols that just happen to match the ones we've been collecting so far. We don't have all of them yet though, so let's go back to our search. In a storeroom we find a lone bag of jelly beans, and inside that is the key of Bethor. We also find that VCR from earlier again, and if we pop the tape in a second time, it's actually understandable now. We can now see it was Lisa who was talking the first time. She seems to be talking about that same kid that she mentioned in her journal earlier. Badly charged skin and the wounds that just won't heal. She says she just can't take it anymore and tells an unknown person off screen that she won't tell anybody about what's going on. Seems like she's asking to be reassigned before the tape cuts off. Now we head into the kitchen and we find a sword jammed through the door.
Hey, Uncle Ray Ray's got a game.
Hey, get your finger out of there!
Tickle, 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 tickle. You wanna play with Uncle Ray?
Oopsie, that didn't work out too well for us. Next time we try that, we use the chain of contract to keep the monster from escaping. This allows us to remove it and be on our way. Now we make our way to the generator room and we turn the power off. With it off, we can finally go grab that key that was hidden behind the metal plate. We do that, and this is the key of Auratron. We use this key in the last locked room in the creepy basement area and walk in on a flashback cutscene with Dahlia, Kaufman, and a couple other doctors standing over Alessa's bed. Dahlia says everything is still going according to plan, but one of the doctors says that half the soul is lost, so the ritual can't be completed. The other half of Alessa's soul is trapped in a coma-like state in this body. Kaufman seems upset, and it does look like he's a little bit more involved with the cult activities than we once thought. Dahlia still seems confident though, and says that she'll use a spell in order to bring the other half back. This will make Alessa's soul whole again and will allow her to be at her full power. Mother of the friggin' year here. The apparitions fade out and we find a picture of Alessa along with our last item, the Disc of Ouroboros. We head back down the hall to that child's room we found earlier now that we have all of our symbols and amulets, and we add them all into the door. We head through the final door where we get to witness another flashbacky ghost scene. This time it's Dahlia and child Alessa together. Dahlia's trying to drag her somewhere, and this is actually kind of a sad scene. For as much grief as Alessa has caused us since we got to town, it's still a little girl who got a pretty raw deal here. Dahlia wants to use Alessa's power, and she uses her Master Mother manipulation skills by telling her it will make everybody happy. Alessa says she just wants the two of them to be together. This gives Dahlia pause before she comes up with a new plan. Now, I never made it very far in Silent Hill Origins, and there isn't a ton of detail about the ritual in this game, but I believe it went a little something like this.
How's anybody gonna get hurt?
We head down the steps and we find that we're the last to arrive. Our girl Sybil beat us here and has Dahlia at gunpoint. We also get to see both halves of Alessa's soul together for the first time. The Puritan pilgrim dressed version we've been seeing all over town, as well as the extra crispy version in the wheelchair. Sybil tries to take Dahlia out, but there's some kind of force field in the way, so she gets yeeted back across the room. Dahlia explains to us that Cheryl is gone and she's been restored to her former self. All this time, Puritan Alessa has actually been our daughter. Coming back to this town has caused her to revert back to her former self. I don't think they really explain how she magically aged up or reverted back, but there are more than a few loose ends in this story. It also strikes me as odd that if Cheryl was absorbed into Alessa, then she should still have some of Cheryl's memories, right? So instead of causing problems for us this whole time, maybe tell us what's going on and have us help? Maybe we wouldn't fully believe her at first, but we've been listening to this whack job Dahlia the whole time, so maybe we would. The burned half of Alessa has been trapped in her nightmare this whole time, and that nightmare has been spilling over into the town itself. Dahlia speaks of salvation now that her god can be born. Her god is built on and nurtured by hate though, so I don't know why she would believe that it's going to come through and truly save everybody. All of a sudden, this bright light overtakes both Alessas and they combine into a whole being once again. As that happens, Kaufman comes out of left field and shoots Dahlia. Then he pulls out that glass bottle that he freaked out about us finding in the motorcycle earlier. Dahlia says she thought she got rid of all this stuff called a glophodus, and she seems genuinely scared of what Kaufman might do with it. He goes all Max Payne and super slow-mo throws the bottle at Alessa. As it shatters on her, Dahlia starts laughing. Maybe that wasn't the trump card Kaufman thought it was. It does have some reaction though, as it causes the demon god, named the Incubus, to erupt out of Alessa's back. It zaps Dahlia with lightning, killing her, and now we're finally at the final boss encounter. Kaufman also mysteriously disappears without explanation. I was able to do some digging in the game's source code though, and I did find a scrapped cutscene that explains his disappearance.
I have to go now. My planet needs me.
So this boss is sort of anticlimactic. You basically just take shots with your strongest guns when you have the chance, and then you run around and try to avoid his lightning. If he hits you, just hurry up and heal, because those bolts can do massive damage. That's the whole strategy. This boss just stays in the center of the room, and you just attack it when you can. After pumping him full of enough lead, he screams out like a little girl and falls to the ground.
Puny god.
He then transforms back into Alessa, even though that came out of her back originally, so I don't know how it transforms back into her, but whatever. Anyway, after the transformation, she pulls out a baby and presents it to Harry. We lost Cheryl, but at least we get another baby in exchange. She also points to the exit portal, which we're able to escape through. Kaufman also tries to head towards it, but out of a hole in the floor, Lisa crawls up and drags him down with her. One of the side stories I didn't touch on too much because there's not too much actually in this game about it, but Kaufman was a drug-peddling piece of shit. Lisa unfortunately was an addict and she had to suffer through taking care of Alessa in order to not be cut off, so yeah, screw him. As we get near the portal, the whole area starts collapsing in on itself, but good guy Alessa uses her final bit of strength to hold it back so we can make our escape. We make our way with Sybil back out into the fog as the credits roll. Now unfortunately this is not the official canon ending, but I'm a sucker for happy endings, so I still like to lie to myself and say that it is. So our previous wife and our daughter are still dead, but we got us a new kid and a new woman, so meh, close enough. Then we get treated to something that I wish they would have kept in the subsequent games, the blooper reel. This plays out that the whole thing was a movie and we get to see all the quote-unquote actors having a laugh as they screw up their scenes. After a dark and kind of depressing game, this was a nice little touch, and especially if you get one of the not-so-great endings, it helps lighten the mood a little bit. It's also nice to be reminded of what the characters were actually supposed to look like. During most of the game, we only get to see them in their muddy PS1 polygonal graphical glory. But here, even though they look a little plasticky, it's still pretty impressive for late 90s CGI. So that ending we just got was the Good Plus ending, and as mentioned before, that's not the official canon ending for the game. There's 5 different endings in the game, 4 legit ones, and then there's also a joke ending. For the 4 main ones, there's only 2 factors that determine which one you get. Whether or not you complete the Kaufman side quest in the resort area, where you run around looking for combos and keys just to get bitched out by Kaufman, and whether or not you save Sybil on the carousel boss fight with the red liquid, or if you kill her. There is some debate on which ending is real based on a few answers from the creators, but 99% agree that the regular good ending is the actual canon ending. For this one, we still do the Kaufman quest, but we end up killing Sybil this time. The final scenes are basically the same, except that Sybil isn't present at the beginning. Kaufman still shows up, and he throws the red liquid at Alessa, causing the incubus to come out of her back for us to fight again. In my playthrough where I got this ending, I also took advantage of a trick for the final boss fight. So the boss just stays in the air the whole fight, and you can't attack it with any melee weapons at all. So if you come into this fight with no ammo, the boss just auto-dies. I just ran like a quarter circle around him, and then, yep, he just died. For this run, I hung out in Alessa's room at the end, and I just unloaded all my ammo there before running down the steps. I'm assuming that's probably part of the speedrunning strategy to this game, to make sure you come into this boss fight with no ammo. Anyway, after the boss dies, most of the scene is still the same. It still turns back into Alessa, who hands us a baby, and Lisa still gets her revenge on Kaufman. We make our way through the portal and out into the fog again, just this time sans our hot, tight black leather pant-wearing baby mama. And after the credits, we just stare up at the night sky like, now what? Up next is the Bat Plus ending. To get this one, we skip Kaufman's quest, but we still save Sybil on the carousel.
You know my code. Hose before bros.
Without Kaufman to show up and throw the Aglophidus at Alessa, the incubus isn't born, and instead we just fight her as the incubator. As Alessa takes on her incubator form, she still summons lightning and fries her mother, so at least Dahlia still got hers in this scenario. The incubator just stands there in the center of the room instead of flying, and her lightning is blue, but the strategy is basically the same as the incubus. Just shoot her until she dies. Heal when you have to. I mean, this is kind of a messed up boss fight. We went through all this to save our daughter, only for her to turn into another chick, and then us have to murder her? Parenting can be tough sometimes, though, so I guess we gotta do what we gotta do. After we kill her, we hear Cheryl's voice thanking us, and then she disappears. After that, we fall to the ground distraught as the credits roll. After the credits, Sybil gets up and tries to snap us out of it and tells us to go, but it's not clear where we would go since there's no portal this time. The screen just fades to black as the flames fall, so there's a good chance we just stayed there until we died as everything collapsed around us. And then we have the bad ending. I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming this is the one I got the most often. Even when I picked up the game again this time, I grabbed the red liquid in the hospital, but I completely forgot what it was for until I got to the Sybil fight, so most likely I forgot to do that in the past too and didn't even remember to use it during the fight. I also know I didn't do the Kaufman quest very often because I hated the resort part so much since I'm an idiot and never knew there was a map. Anyway, yeah, for this ending, you don't do Kaufman's quests and you don't save Sybil. So even though this boss stays on the ground, there's a force field around her that won't let you get close enough to actually hit her with melee weapons. So if you come into this fight with no ammo, it plays out almost the same as the Incubus fight did.
You win this time, Explodey, but I'll be back.
After we defeat her, the incubator falls to the ground again and then says goodbye to us as Harry looks on all sad again. Post-credits, we're given a quick scene showing Harry dead in his car. This whole game had apparently been dying hallucinations as we laid there bleeding out from the crash at the beginning of the game. Super messed up too, because in that case none of this might be real, meaning that Cheryl either died in the crash too, or she's still alive, badly hurt and trapped in the car with her dead dad, and basically just has to sit there waiting until hopefully rescue arrives. That makes this the second most devastating ending involving a car that I've ever seen. Lastly, we have our joke ending, the UFO ending. There's a few goodies you get on subsequent playthroughs, like weapons and bullet multipliers, and also the channeling stone, which is the tool you use to get the special ending. We find the stone near the beginning of the game in the convenience store ripoff of the 7-Eleven, just laying on the counter. Now we just gotta take this stone and use it at 5 specific parts of the game. First is on the roof of the school, which will cause a UFO to spawn off in the distance. Next we use it in the Otherworld Hospital courtyard. Followed by the motel parking lot. Then we use it inside the boat, and this time the UFO brought some friends with him. Lastly, we use it at the top of the lighthouse, and then this time there's a whole invasion's worth of UFOs. This is the first time I've gotten this ending, and not gonna lie, I had to look at a guide because there is no way I would have figured this out on my own. Broken Record Harry asked them if they've seen Cheryl, but these little dudes just aren't having it. They zap him and drag him off into the ship for some probable heavy-duty probing.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
We watch the Star Wars ripoff credit crawl as some weird 80s-esque music plays out. They actually did a pretty good job of making this look like the ending of some cheesy 80s movie. So that was it for the endings. In terms of extras, there's also a few special weapons we can grab on Next Fear mode. 2 of them require the gas can, which can be obtained by going through the propped open door at the gas station. We can only choose one of these gas-powered weapons per playthrough though, so we gotta choose wisely. Option 1 is right down the street at Cut Right Chainsaws, and as you may have guessed, it's a chainsaw. It's not a great weapon. It's slow, but it does decent damage, and at least you can move around with it. It's also loud though, and in a game that already has too much noise pollution, that just makes it even worse. Option number 2 can be found slightly later in the downstairs room of the bridge control room. This is another weapon I wouldn't really use that much. It has a little bit more power than the chainsaw, but you're stuck in place while you use it. It does have some knockback, which is nice, to create some distance between you and the enemies, so I guess that's something. It's really just up to personal preferences, but I'd probably go with the chainsaw just because chainsaws are more of a horror staple. The last special melee weapon is the katana. We can get this one in the doghouse house. When we go in the house, the hallway door is now open and we're able to grab this beast of a weapon. Now this is a bonus weapon.
I am a ninja.
It slices and dices through basically everything, and not only that, but it propels you towards your target when you swing, making it a really good weapon to close gaps. Seriously, this weapon just removes any semblance of horror from the game with how badass it is. With its ability to stun lock and the fact that you can just zip across the screen, nothing stands a chance. They do make you work for it though, since you do need to beat the game at least twice and get at least one good and one bad ending to be able to use this. So by that point you're probably getting pretty good at dispatching these enemies anyway. Last but not least, there's the Hyper Blaster. This is the only special gun in the game. To get this weapon, you have to get the UFO ending, and then depending on your previous playthrough star rating, you'll get a different version of this gun with either a red, yellow, or green laser. This gun is basically a space phaser that fires fast and has no reload. If you're a scrub like me, you get the red version, and each shot has the power of a pistol bullet. If you were able to get an 8-star rating, you get the yellow version, where each shot has the power of a shotgun shell. And if you're some Giga Chad and got 10 stars, you get the green version, which shoots with the power of a rifle round, which would essentially shred anything this town has to throw at you. With how fast it fires though, and the fact that you don't have to reload, even the red version is pretty decent.
And now for my final thought.
So after revisiting this game for the first time in a few years, there definitely was a bit of nostalgia that came roaring back with it. Obviously the graphics are dated, the voice acting is that special PS1 level of terrible, and the story can be a convoluted mess at times. The janky controls can also be a little bit rough to go back to, but they do add to the survival horror aspect of the game. Harry isn't meant to be some Rambo knockoff. He's just some regular dude trying to save his daughter. And on the lower difficulties, the game can be rather forgiving when it comes to ammo and health, so I don't think it overly detracts from the fun of the game. In terms of sound, the game still holds up, and I can say that that is not nostalgia speaking. While this soundtrack doesn't have some of those banger hits that 2 and 3 do, the music still fits perfectly and adds to the unease. The sound effects are also spot on, and the static will definitely start to wear on you after a while. It may be because I played through a bunch of times in a row to get all the different endings and such, but I can honestly say I was starting to feel a little on edge after 20 plus hours of playing this. And even while I was editing and replaying, a few of the jump scares, especially in the hospital, got me every single time. If you haven't played or haven't played in a while, I definitely recommend replaying if you can for a non-unreasonable price. I can't say that in 2024 it's actually worth spending the $100+ that you'll spend on a physical disc for the OG PlayStation, but if you can get a digital version for a few bucks or want to go the emulation route, it's definitely worth it. Anyway, if you made it this far, I really appreciate you listening to me ramble this whole time. This is my first video, so I'm sure my editing is terrible and I have no idea what I'm doing in terms of sound levels or anything, so Feel free to let me know in the comments how much I suck, or my video sucks, or my voice sucks, or maybe if you even actually like something, let me know that too. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I don't really know how to end this, so